Hello and welcome to the HI UK Select monthly update for December 2025. This is a relatively flat month for the fund. We saw UK markets rally gently into year end, but we didn't get the big post-budget rally that we really expected. To some extent, the budget was a little bit of a non-event and people were probably focusing a little bit more on what might happen in 26. Within that context, it was a good year end for most of the things that worked actually in the UK market last year. So things like banks and miners. So our positions in Barclays, for example, were good, and Glencore and Anglo American in miners. So those long positions were all pretty helpful, and clearly the counter shorts were less helpful in those sectors. So they generally, led the long book. Our weaker longs were things like Informa, where people are still concerned about some of the longer term impact of AI, and Marks and Spencer, where perhaps people were a little bit cautious on how the UK consumer has behaved into Christmas. And how that might affect those retailers. So it was a mixed bag on the long book. On the short book, we had a particularly good short in a reviewing engine and software business Trustpilot. Actually, what happened there was a large short note was publicly published, and basically questioning the veracity of some of the reviews and the business model. And we kind of agree with some of that, but it was good for our short position overall in the month to see that note being published. So that helped us. Things were a bit of a headwind. Okay, we had a rising market, so our index positions were also a headwind. Ocado, which had been very good last month on the cancellation of that Kroger contract, had a little bit of a rally this month as well. And Carnival, the cruise company, issued slightly better than expected results, so it also rallied. So they were slight drags against the win we had with Trustpilot. It was also a bit disappointing to see the house builders didn't really rally into year end, so our Bellway position was a bit weak, the long position there. So overall, it was a bit of a damp squib end to the year, and actually, the second half of the year has been below the high standards we would set ourselves for this strategy. I think to some extent the market never really broadened out as we had hoped. So the things that worked in the first half in the UK market, the equities that worked, that fairly narrow group of banks, miners and defence companies kind of did okay for the whole year in the end. So the broadening out, which we think would have favoured the strategy, didn't really come through. We're not short of ideas. We've got plenty of ideas, and we do think a slightly broader market seems more likely in 26. But clearly we've got to focus very hard as we start the new year on returning to the positive returns you've come to expect from the strategy. Thank you again for your support this year. It is very much appreciated, and we look forward to updating you again as 2026 starts.